Oh, we're good. We're back.
We're good.
I got
But all I
be honest.
fucking...
Wait, what
Around
happened?
this amount of time, that does kind of happen.
You were lagging for a little bit, and all of a sudden we heard and rubbing his balls, and that's all we heard.
Welcome to the New Music Podcast. We got your two regular jackoffs from upstate New York. My name is Patrick.
And I'm Kyle. I was in the middle of a drink.
As you should. Welcome back. We have a fabulous guest on the show today. Please introduce yourself.
I am Matt Mabie, otherwise known as Deathcore Dad from Deathcore Dad memes, and I make funny memes for metalheads.
Woo!
The meme
Or
lord
something like that.
himself. The meme lord
Cringy,
himself.
somewhat,
Or
just maybe funny or humorous memes, whatever, but something like that.
Fuck it.
Sick. We're stoked to have you on the show. We
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
like I told you before, we've had a couple people request to have you on the show, so that's going to be a good one for the listeners. One of the first things I want to get started asking you about is how the whole Vatican Falling thing happened, because that just was so out of left field. I had no idea to expect anything like that, and I was stoked when I came across that content.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, the thing started with Vatican Falling. I think I want to say it was back in 2017, and I made a post. I believe it was on Deathcore Dad memes about seeing if there was any bands who'd be willing to cover that Vitas song, the Seventh Element is what it's called. And so it had that really funny vocal part in it where it goes. And so I was like, you know what? That's got to be like that'd be a cool like section or song. Excuse me. No, I don't have the coronavirus.
Damn.
I just to make that clear. That's just from smoking and whatever else. But anyway, so I got started. Yeah, I made this post and I'm like, I had a feeling I didn't think anybody was going to answer it, to be honest. And even at that time, I think we still had over 100,000, 150,000 plus followers at that time. But when I make like little posts like this, I still don't even take it seriously. I just think, we'll see what happens. Well, next thing I knew, I believe it was Thomas Palmer, bassist for Vatican Falling, hit me up, and then got me in a chat about talking about, hey, we'd like to do this, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds good. You guys record it, whatever, and even after that conversation, I kind of thought, this may or may not happen. Well, next thing I knew, he sent over an audio file of Adam, their vocalist, that they had sat down and recorded of him doing the song. And my entire kind of point, I guess, or the punchline was going to see how a deathcore or a metal vocalist, generally speaking, could emulate that section, that and I was like, this is going to be interesting. And as soon as it hit, I go, oh, this is amazing. And I synced it up to the video of Vitas actually doing it. So kind of, obviously his mouth is a little different because when you're doing metal vocals, you put your mouth in all kinds of weird ways. Yeah, butthole lips and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So when it comes out, with the video, but it still looks good. And I was able to sync it up pretty well. And next thing you know, it had like over 1 million views in a few days, and we just kind of, a viral video kind of kept us in contact, and then we kind of hit each other up like, hey, did you see where the video's at? And they go, whatever, and so we just kind of talked about that, and then one day there was a conversation about band stuff and music, and they wanted to know what my background was, and. No, I've in the past been in a few bands, ranging from like metalcore to like thrash and like death metal, like just 3 or 4 different bands. But I had like one song that we had recorded, and from one of my old bands, and I just happened to show it to them, and they're like, "Dude, you can handle a mic or whatever." And vocals to me it's always been something really fun to do, but I've really liked the live performing. Like that was where I was. Kind of not, I wouldn't say like shown through, but that was my favorite part because I was super enthusiastic. I love running around and getting involved. I'd get myself in pits and with the crowd and whatever. Obviously, like 3 people, 2 people were pitting, one guy was standing there flipping us off. Anyway, but yeah, so long story short, they go, hey, dude, you know, we'd love to fly you out to Vegas and give you a spot on the mic. And I kind of started laughing, like, really? You know, because I'm not really, I would consider myself a vocalist. Like, yeah, I was a front man. I did vocals and I've laid down tracks and stuff. So I've got experience with being a front man and doing that type of deal. But I never really thought it was going to be something I picked up again, just because I always wanted to be involved in like the metal community and being a very devoted metalhead and loving all the different subgenres and whatever. But, you know, I'd always thought it was going to be kind of like through memes and meme content and helping promote bands, because of the page numbers that, you know, as they started going up, I wanted to help, you know, figured I'd help bands out. So that had that too. And I, you know, so I never really thought it was going to be something that I'd do again. They were like, hey, we'll fly out to Vegas. You know, Thomas, you know, bought me a ticket and said, hey, come out and record something with us. And I was like, sweet. And that weekend I went out there. It was not only a good experience recording and doing all that again, but it was like instantly we all clicked. Like all 5 of us at the time, you know, we all got along really well. And so not only was it a great experience recording, laying down tracks, doing something I hadn't done in years, but then I also, you know, undeniably, unashamedly fell in love with these guys like immediately. And so like our friendship kind of just grew from there, and it kind of got more personal. It wasn't so much about, it was all just about music. It was about, hey, how's everything going? Seeing how, you know, being concerned with each other and their personal lives and blah, 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 you know, not to get sappy, but so, you know, and then most recently, obviously, I don't know if I think you were playing it when we were trying to get the intro going before.
Yeah.
I did another guest spot with him, King of Vermin, on their upcoming. It's already out. I've been saying upcoming for so long that it's just like second nature because of how long I've been promoting it. Anyway, but yeah, their album that just came out a little over a week ago, probably almost 2 weeks now, King of Vermin with Chris Story, who's also the current whatever guitar player for All Shall Perish, featured on that song and contributed some parts on the album. But yeah, anyways, long story short, so yeah, here we are and did that song. So I'm just glad to consider those guys good buddies of mine, because they're all amazing humans, just very talented, great people. So that's kind of a long story, but it needed the context, because our whole like relationship started on a meme and me trying to see what band could bring to the table, because I just knew in my heart if somebody nailed this, it could be something that would be great, and they killed it. They knocked, Adam knocked it out of the park, and Thomas did the recording, produced the track, and it was awesome. So anyway, yeah, long story short, those are my boys, Vatican Falling.
That was a
shout out to them.
Yeah,
there you go.
Buy their fucking merch.
Buy some merch. Yeah, and I know they're going to be having some merch drop very soon for their new album, and they've got some really cool designs. So it's going to be cool. Pretty stoked on that.
I like about when you shared that you shared the video, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? Let's give this band a shot. You know what? Let's fuck it. Let's watch the video. And I enjoyed all of it because it was fucking different, you know? It was fucking different. And then as soon as it got to the middle, and then you took this man out of the trunk and gave him a guitar.
I'm not gonna lie.
Christopher's story right there,
I expected
lost my mind. I lost my mind. I was like, this man just took this man out of the fucking trunk.
It was and the thing is that video when another cool thing that these guys, I'm so spoiled. I'm not gonna lie, these guys have really given me a lot of like cool experiences, and being in the music video for King of Vermin was one of them. And it's not the most high production, whatever video, but it was fun. We had fun with it, and it was a nice way for us for them, not us, but them as a band, to introduce Chris being the new guitar player in Vatican Falling. And that whole part, the whole video was kind of set up obviously for that surprise, and then my guest, and they were trying, well, how do we make this all work, or and that was kind of the thing that they came up with, and it was, I think I'm glad that there's some people who really enjoyed that, because we were making it and we thought it was funny, whether people thought it was kind of cringy or dumb, we were just like laughing the whole time, and And we probably did like 4 or 5 takes, and one take I like poked him in the eye with the glasses as I was putting them on him. But and he goes, "Dude, bro,
because that would be a great
I'm pretty
video
sure
for later."
I'm pretty sure I could get Thomas to share like a little bit of that, because there were times when like somebody shoved the cigar that he put in his mouth way too far, so he gagged. Just all kinds of funny stuff. But and so it was great. It was fun driving around the caddy around the Vegas Strip. So we had a lot of fun.
I can tell that car was definitely expensive. Like that car looked nice.
Yeah, Thomas is. I think it was passed down from Thomas's like grandfather or grandpa. He can correct me on that later, but I know that it's something that's been passed down to him, and so it's a generational thing. It's from that. I can't remember what year it is, but it was an 80s. It's an 80s Cadillac, but it's got a lot of the original interior. I want to say 90% of it is all restored, like from the original version.
It looks it. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure back in the day, because my grandfather, before he passed away, he owned a very old fucking Cadillac, and it didn't have any seatbelts in it at all.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Like it's like the old school buses, just like back in the 90s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, when it was like kids were free to roam the bus when you're going 55 miles an hour down the street. It's like, we're safe, so safe.
Yeah, the fucking manual shifter is up here where the steering wheel is and shit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, we were running wild back in those days. But so yeah, it was great. We had a fun time though.
It looked like you had a great time. Like I can't imagine. Especially like the whole thing. I don't mean to interrupt, but like the whole thing of like what you said. Hey, I bought you a ticket. Come on. Like what?
Yeah, you're right. And it's not okay. And granted, Thomas isn't like a rich, wealthy man. It wasn't something that that I obviously expected. So it wasn't like chump change. He put forth his hard-earned money to fly me out. Granted, at that time, flights to Vegas weren't super expensive, but $100, $100. I don't know how much whatever. But yeah, just for him to even offer, I was like, you got to be kidding me. So, it was kind of little things like that right off the bat. I knew these guys were different. And granted, these guys, not a whole lot of people know about them yet, but I know that, once they get out there, a lot more people will understand what I'm saying when they get to know them more, because they are really good dudes.
From what I can tell, it seems like the fan base that they have is a very strong core fan base, and they don't have very many that are like Whitechapel that are like, I fuck with this song or this song. Most of their demographic, or I should say their audience, seems to be very dedicated to them, and I've got a lot of respect for a band that has that kind of a pull on their audience.
Yeah, I would say that I agree, as far as like when the core base, like the base of their audience really enjoys, like, it isn't just like onesie twosie songs. They seem to enjoy the albums or the concepts as a whole. It isn't them just being fair weather fans like that. Yeah, this song rocks, but the blah blah blah, these all suck. And it's like, and granted, people are still going to have their favorite songs. There's going to be standout tracks, certain licks, riffs, breakdowns, solos that are people are going to stand out to certain people. It's like, yeah, War may be your favorite track off of War, the new album, but Lament Configuration might have your favorite breakdown. But it just kind of, but the collective work has always seemed to be, people are like, well, I can't really pick ones or two, because they kind of write for these albums to flow and really be really interwoven, and they want their songs to sound obviously different, but they want the tone and the theme to all kind of work together to where it doesn't sound like just a bunch of different random songs with different elements all kind of thrown together. They want it to flow, and that was the biggest thing. So I feel like that kind of helps with their fans and their base's dedication. It's not, like you mentioned, it's about the full body work, not necessarily a riff here or there. So
let's get you hooked on one riff, and then we're gonna play it for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah, we're gonna elaborate. Then we're gonna break it down. Then we're gonna put some solos in. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is one thing I hear a lot about them, and maybe that's why I'm a bit partial, because of my age and being a little older than some of the people that maybe listen to them. But I I like people bring up how they kind of have an old school sound to them, like like more like a MySpace deathcore type sound. A lot of people.
For me, that's more the production, the way that it's produced.
I think it has. I think the production absolutely has something to do with it. But I also believe that the riffs, like a lot of your kind of like at the Gatesian, real like fast, type riffs, but with the, it's not just super chuggy. Don't get me wrong. I love me a gosh darn breakdown, and I love open zeros, palm muted to the nastiest extent. Don't get me wrong, and I'm very, very, very okay with just ignorantly heavy breakdowns and banging my head off my neck for no other reason other than just getting down to something filthy, But I also love well written technical, proggy just riffs, just riff salads, and I believe that that's one thing that they kind of bring to the table. They use their breakdowns and their riffs like almost like a recipe. They'll use their riffs to kind of base their, as their lettuce, and their blast beats or their, a little bit of dressing, and then they got breakdowns. It's like pepper and croutons, it's
the spice,
baby. It's this little spice, and that's what I enjoy about him, and that's what I hope that other people kind of enjoy, because Dustin is a hell of a songwriter, and Thomas can play, being the bass player, but he can literally sit behind any instrument and play riffs. That guy's so musically Adam, same thing. The guy's got knowledge about music, all kinds of stuff, and really pays homage to a lot of his inspiration, musically and vocally and everything. So they all are just very talented dudes, when it comes down to it. But anywho, long story short, I believe that their style and everything is kind of missing in today's world, in a sense of metal. Like, yeah, a lot of like I'm not saying their riffs are like never heard of, because some riffs, people take from other riffs and stuff like that. But I believe that the formula they have is a bit of an old school formula, in a sense.
I could definitely agree with that, because I came up in, like, I graduated in 2011, so like a lot of my favorite records came out between 2005 and 2010. So like was kind of like
golden age of deathcore right there.
I was almost about to say that too. That's funny.
Absolutely, like that's when the sweet spot, really hit. And the thing is I go ahead with your story, but yeah, golden age of deathcore, absolutely. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, I'm here graduating at 2015.
Hey,
we're not even going to talk about graduations anymore. We're going to cut it right there, because I don't even want to go there.
I don't want to embarrass.
We'll just say I graduated.
We got it.
Quite a long time ago.
Long enough.
But anywho, yeah. So 2005 to 2010, right?
Yeah, like bands like Suicide Silence and Whitechapel were what got me into deathcore. Sadly, Bring the Horizon was my first experience with deathcore, and because of being in that era, that got me into the deep dive, and then I started finding my way into stuff like As I Lay Dying, and then just sprinkling my way all the way around, and then I finally came around to shit like Cannibal Corpse, At the Gates, and a whole bunch of other just wild shit, and I knew I was hooked.
That's a pretty, and there's a lot of people who will say, oh, they jump from this to death metal, and it's or like your slam and all this other stuff, and it's like granted there are going to be people out there that maybe did have a jump from like Korn to slam, or whatever. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I feel like a natural progression is needed, because even though people are looking for stuff that's heavier, they want to look for something that's going to ease them into something that's a little bit heavier. So like for me, it was like I started off with Korn, and then baby stepped into Slipknot, because whereas Korn has got a lot of heavier material, people, maybe younger people don't really see or have seen. They've got stuff that can compete with Slipknot heavy wise. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to a consistent heaviness, Slipknot's got them beat. As far as just they've got a lot of ballads and stuff. Don't get me wrong, but consistently, like if you put a timer on Slipknot's albums for all the heavy stuff, and then for Korn's, I would think that Slipknot's would be a little bit higher. But so I went to Slipknot, and then after Slipknot, I want to say, where did I go? I want to say it was probably Bleeding Through. After that was my first exposure into like the core like metal mix, and where I heard my first breakdown, and it was during
It's funny because
the
I was
song.
way more into like Atreyu at like because it's around the same time. I definitely got really heavy into Atreyu, but it wasn't until after I discovered Motionless
They're
in
both
White that I
OC
heard about.
hardcore band or metalcore bands. I mean,
Yeah,
they're very closely tied.
but if I had never heard Motionless in White, I would have never known who Bleeding Through was because they had Brandon on one of their tracks, and then I went back and
Yep.
I found out that's where Motionless got their whole sound from, and I'm like, holy shit! And then I fell in love
Yeah.
with Bleeding Through.
Oh yeah,
Very
dude.
sick band.
They're amazing. And oddly enough, the reason that I had gotten into Bleeding Through was because my buddy Mike Lamer, shout out if you're listening. You may or may not. Maybe I'll share it with you just so you can hear the shout out. Me and my buddy Mike went to a AFI show back in the day, way back when they were blowing up and everything. And I believe it was Sing the Sorrow had just come out, but it was just after then. But anyway, and one of the bands that they had brought on tour with them was Bleeding Through. So the first time I'd ever saw Bleeding Through was opening up for AFI, and I was like, "What in the world?" Brandon's, little muscle man ass running around the place, and he's all fully tatted. At the time he wasn't as tatted and as big, but he was still pretty stocky, and he was a mean little dude running around. His face was just, mean ass dude, but the sweetest man. I met him a couple times just in passing after shows. Super sweet guy, and would took the time to say, "Hey, appreciate that," and talk with you a little bit and wouldn't shrug you off. Anyway, and then from then on, I was like, I got to know more about these guys. And I heard Hemlock Society, and then I heard all their stuff off Portrait of a Goddess, and I'm like, this is awesome. And so then at that point, I just went, okay, basically searching the Google or anywhere I could find any band that sounded like Bleeding Through. And from then on, it was like you said, As I Lay Dying, I found them. Atreyu, and I liked a little bit of Atreyu's older stuff, but when their drummer, I think his name is Brand, I can't remember, when he started doing more singing, I was like, I can take it or leave it. But the earlier stuff was cool. Suicide Notes and Butterfly Kisses, that was a great album.
That fucking album
was a pretty
was
good
great.
album.
I had that album. It's funny because say what you want, but like I was definitely a verified emo kid. Right around that Victory Records era.
Yeah, he was.
I was. I've got the pictures to back it up and everything.
What's funny is that I can't say that I actually had an emo phase, but I was like in that weird phase where I was still kind of dressing kind of like I was in my new metal phase, but I'm listening to Glassjaw and Bleeding Through. It was like weird, but I never did the hair swipe to the side. I had a mohawk, so I don't know. I had a punkier phase,
My
but
mom
anyways.
would not let me get a mohawk. I will say this because before I got into emo music, I was heavy into punk rock. So I'm talking NoFX, Rancid. Like Rancid's one of my favorite bands, hands down.
Rancid is awesome. They're great live too.
I believe it. They're a bucket list band for me because I need to meet their bassist. If their bassist did not play the way he plays, I would have never picked up a bass. If I'm being totally honest.
They're a great influential punk band. I mean, a lot of people, and the thing is even though they're huge now, it's like they kind of became huge because their underground following just blew up. They didn't have any other way to go but quote unquote mainstream. But those guys stayed about as underground as you could get forever, and mad respect to those guys in Rancid.
And if you have listened to anything by Rancid and don't know anything by Operation Ivy, go.
Op Ivy,
go
love
fucking
Op
listen
Ivy.
to that. Please,
yeah,
anybody listening, go listen to that shit.
Yep.
That
Op Ivy. What about Assorted Jelly Beans? Did you do Assorted Jelly Beans?
I don't think so.
Oh man, you got to go check out Assorted Jelly Beans.
Most of because at the time in my life when I was really into punk music, I was kind of like very secluded and I was very isolated. So I was just doing the best research I could. I never had that outward influence on music, so I had to find it myself. That was that LimeWire era, though.
Oh, but see, that was cool. But you know what I like to do, and in a kind of like a weird, like isolated way. I mean, I might have went with like a friend, but my favorite way, like I would go out to like I can't remember what it was called before. It was like FYI or Sam. It might be Sam Goody
or something like that.
FYE, yeah, FYE.
Yeah,
sorry, yeah, FYE.
Yeah.
And then there's I think before then, or there might even still be Sam Goody's around. But I would literally just go to the metal section, and I would pick out however much money I had on me to spend. And I'd pick out whatever bands I saw that either had a combination of like cool album cover, cool name, or just a super cool name, and I'd wing it. and I would just go and I'd take the CD because of the aesthetic, and that shout out to all the album cover artists out there and guys who make logos, because those guys will bring in a lot more eyes than because I there's probably 20-25 bands that I can name off the top of my head that I just literally picked because their name was either like tied or something to Bleeding Through, was like in that sort of genre sounding. And dude, Every Time I Die, As I Lay Dying, As Hope Dies, like all kinds of great metalcore bands back then.
That's crazy. Like, speaking of punk, like, I didn't know that Papa Roach, like, back in the fucking day, their first album. Yeah. Have you listened to their first absolute album?
You're talking about before Infested? Is it? I can't remember with the cockroach.
Yeah, Infested. Yeah.
Before that album?
Before that.
I don't think I ever have, to be honest.
It's like, dude, it is so.
I'm gonna pull it up really quick. I'm gonna
punk.
find out what that album's called.
It is so terribly, like, it. I wouldn't say terribly, because, like, compared to what they do now, it is completely different. Like, you gotta go all the way down, the way down in their discography. And I found it
the first album that they ever put out was Infest, but
no, it's not. If you go on Spotify and you go all the way down, bro, you're gonna find it.
That's funny hearing you tell me where to go on Spotify, man.
Spotify was good, in my opinion. Like, I hate Spotify now, but
it's funny to me now that it says on Google that Infest came out in 2000, but on Spotify it says 2001.
Yeah.
What? Oh, I would say it's got to be 2000, because here's the thing. I went and saw Korn, Power Man 5000, and Papa Roach in concert in 2000, because it was never mind, I'm not even going to say it, 2000. And so anyways, we went and saw those three bands, and I'm pretty sure they were playing Broken Home, Last
Broken
Resort. You know what? Call it what you will. Don't really care, because honestly, like, I respect anybody's musical opinion, because I've got a lot of weird stuff that I could throw out there that people might judge me for, that I listen to, and I could care less. But I'll just say this straight up. Infested was a banger of an album.
It was a great album.
There was very minimal screaming and whatever, but the riffs, the hooky kind of choruses, his like intensity was back then. It was like, yeah, these guys are nasty. And the thing is they weren't even the heaviest nu metal band out there, but their bass was super thumpy, and they had a lot of awesome, like, kind of just nice riffs. And like Broken Home, what's that other one? Angels and I can't remember, but it's not Angels not Angels.
I want to
Airwaves.
say Angels and Airwaves, but I know that's not what it is.
Oh my god, yo!
You have to look
Google
it up.
My best friend.
Yeah, just Papa Roach Angels, and I guarantee you it'll be like the
Angels and Insects.
Yes!
That fucking song was dirty.
Absolutely, yeah.
God. That fucking scream at the way end.
Oh yeah. God. And the thing is, he was not like methodically screaming during that album. He was just wailing, screaming. There was no technique. It was kind of like Jonathan Davis in a sense. Don't get me wrong, Jonathan Davis destroys Jacoby Shaddix when it comes to vocals, period, in my opinion, but that's another story.
That's fair. That's fair.
But as far as it was just raw intensity, there was no like technique. He wasn't trying to do gutturals or tunnel throats or anything like that.
It was just straight feeling.
It was like, let me just yell at the top of my lungs, and this is what it's going to sound like. And that was cool. I love that so much.
I haven't heard a term for what that style of screaming is called, but you've got false chords, which are the ones you're using on the bottom, and then vocal fry, which is your middle area of your throat. But there's an area on the top that a lot of older hardcore bands like Hatebreed and shit, like all of those bands that did that was like way before any of this shit, the new style of screaming came in, like where we had it refined, where you wouldn't fuck up your voice and sound a horse afterwards and shit. But that's definitely whatever that vocal style is called, because I keep hearing it getting referred in all these different voice hacks and voice tutorial videos. Whatever that's called, that's what they were doing back then.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But back in like.
But it sounded good. So who fucking cares?
But back
right,
like,
but you know, like, oh, it sounded good, but you don't want anybody to wreck their voice. But you're like, dude, you still sounded good. I'm just, did you die?
Did you die though?
So,
That's literally my life. Literally my life. Did you die though? But anyway, like, exactly. It's like that Slipknot album. What Papa Roach's first album? Papa Roach's first album. It was a blue cover. I remember it specifically. It was a light blue cover. I can't remember what the fuck it was called, but I'm telling you right now, it was old school punk rock, like recorded on a cassette tape and everything. It was
that trips me out. Is it kind of like the difference between now? You guys know the band Sugar Ray, right? Or heard of them?
I've heard of them, that's for sure.
Okay, now it's like one of their first albums, and it had the song "Fly." I just wanna fly. That song.
Everybody knows that fucking song.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that was, but if you go back and listen to the album, I want to say that was one of maybe that only one or one of two songs on that album that sounded like that. The rest of it was like punky nu metal. I'm not even kidding. If you go back and listen, don't listen to Fly. Just go to whatever song one is and just press play and just give it like one, and you'll be like, really? And then after that, after Fly blew up, that was all they were. They were just the absolute acoustic butt rock band, pretty much.
The sad part is people are going to hear this. They're going to go, oh, I bet you I can find the MIDI for that. Let's go do that and steal all their old riffs.
Dude, people, I wouldn't be surprised.
Like, literally.
I wouldn't at all.
It's like going back to the Papa Roach thing, like, bro, I wanted to listen to their first ever album, and I was in high school. I think it was junior year, and I'm like,
were they called Papa Roach or were they called something different?
No, they were called Papa Roach.
Okay, so they weren't like the same members, just with a different name, and that's why you wouldn't find it on YouTube.
No, I was going through Spotify, and I listened to Papa Roach like religiously because I loved Papa Roach, and I was just scrolling all the way down. I was like, what is their first album? So I went all the way down past Infected, and then it was like this light blue fucking album. I wish I can fucking find it, dude.
And it wasn't like imported version, like where it was like they released it in Japan and had like 2 extra tracks that didn't get released in the US or some shit.
I don't think so. Hold on.
I'm interested. We're gonna have to get somebody on this to figure this out, because now I need to know.
Like, the only album cover that is remotely blue is this one.
No, not that one.
I know, but that Fear one or whatever.
I think they got rid of it, bro.
Yeah, because it's not on there. It's not on there.
Well, I mean, there's got to be some. You know what? It might even be worth like going to like a
because it was in like 19. Oh, they got rid of it, dude. They did. They absolutely got rid of it, because the last one is Infest, which is the cockroach, 2001.
Oh,
they definitely got rid of it. They definitely.
You nailed it, Holmes.
If anybody listening knows or has a physical copy of this, please
if you have
send us an email to the NUMUSICPodcast@gmail.com. You know what it is.
Kyle's gonna be willing to pay some absurd amount of money for this copy.
I will like.
He's like, anywhere upwards of $60, somewhere in there.
Any upwards of a video game, I'll pay.
If you even know what it's called, drop it in the fucking comments down here, because we need to know.
Somebody's got to know.
Somebody's
got to know.
Someone listening to this knows. That's crazy, though.
I need that album. I need it.
All right. I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. Every time I interview anybody on this show, I've asked this question, and that is, what is your origin story? Like, how did you get into music? How did this become such a staple in your life?
Okay, that's and the thing is very easy, because I can remember very clearly sitting in my room at a very young age, and I want to say third or fourth grade. So it was elementary school, and I remember sitting in my room listening to the exact song was Whiplash by Metallica, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, and until to this day, I can still listen to it and get like those new feelings of, ooh, what is this? In a sense, maybe not as crazy, but yeah. So I just remember listening to that, and that intro of that I just thought it was the fastest riff And I remember telling my mom, I go, how does their wrist move that fast? And I just remember, getting like an acoustic or just anything that I could think of, and just thinking, am I moving that fast enough to do that riff? And obviously I have no idea how to finger because I'm no guitar player, but yeah, I just thought to myself, wow, this is incredible. And from there, I just kind of I went a little bit more into Metallica and listened to a lot of Justice for All, Kill 'Em All. And believe it or not, I think the Black Album is underrated, to be completely honest with you. I think the Black Album's got a lot more gems on it. And granted, there's a lot of people who will say, oh, it's just a Kmart, Metallica album. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of true.
I mean, it's not my preferred. My preferred is always going to be And Justice for All. But
it's an amazing record.
I've gotten so far away from that style of metal that Metallica to me is when I feel like listening to something a little bit more laid back.
Mellow. Oh, absolutely. But when you're 8 or 9 years old, it's just
absolutely.
That was blowing my mind, And then so I go, okay, so I kind of grew up listening to the faster stuff first, and then I was with my buddy once again, Mike Lamers. Shout out to Mike Lamers again, one of my good buddies who I had a lot of my musical endeavors with. That guy and I went to hundreds of shows. But anyway, he was like my music road dog. But we were in his house when we were like 10 or 11. Or I think we were 11 or 12, so we were a little bit older, closer to being teenagers. And we played baseball teams together. So I was over at his house one day, and he goes, "Bro, let me show you this." And he turns on Clown by Korn. And I was just like, what on earth is this? And it was just, so if you know anything about that first album, it's probably one of the most mentally, like, as far as like you listen to his lyrics and stuff, man, it's such an emotional album, especially for Jonathan Davis, their singer. But just imagine, you're Metallica is kind of my threshold for like what's heavy at that point. And granted, there's a lot of Metallica stuff that might be able to rival Korn's heaviness when they were at their most intense and heavy. But man, you hear that, that Clown, that and you're just, oh my God, it's just such a hard hitting intro. And
I've yet to hear a good cover of that song.
Oh, I would die for
I've been dying for a good
like
deathcore, or even just like a good like old school metalcore cover of that.
Oh, just throw the breakdowns in. Yeah, to me, honestly,
it just needs to get the chugs right. That's all.
Yeah, it could, because oh man, you think about that song, and to me, a song doesn't necessarily have to be like sped up for the breakdowns to work more efficient. Like against the contrast of fast to slow music. I feel like Korn's BPMs could still work if you stick those breakdowns, in there, and you make them work for the riffs. You could that song would thump so hard. I don't even care. I'm a Korn fanboy, but I'll be honest with you, that song would thump so hard. Anything really from that first album, anything from what I could list a lot of songs from Korn that would thump that have never been covered, but Clown is definitely one of them.
Absolutely. That's like my go-to. Like that's the one I picture being like a nasty deathcore song. If someone decided to do it.
And so me and my buddy Mike Lamers, kind of go back to the story. We're sorry, we position. We're sitting there. I'm like, wow, let me hear more. And so we I think at the time, I want to say Life is Peachy had just come out or was getting ready to come out. And I just remember I was super hyped because we had listened to the first album through 100 times, before. And then, I was just like, what's going to be heavier than this? And so Life is Peachy came out. I was a Korn fanboy for years and years and years. But yeah, that was I forget where we were going with that. But yeah, I just remember that was kind of my progression. And then after that, it was Bleeding Through, As I Lay Dying, all that metalcore, the double like late 90s metalcore. And then from there, it was into death. I think my first deathcore band I listened to was, it's so hard because they're so close around at the same time. So I always say them kind of in the same breath, is All Shall Perish and Suicide Silence. Because I remember listening to, I think it's Wage Slaves from, or No Business on a Dead Planet from Price of Existence, that album. Mm-hmm. And it was so punishing. I was just like, that was another album that blew my cat back. And then not that long, around the same time, I heard Unanswered by Suicide Silence, and that was it. I was hooked. bigger and better things from on out.
There's going to be a I'm stupid hyped about this now, but there's apparently going to be a tribute album being done. And when I found that, I was stupid hyped for some of the names
I just saw that today.
Suicide Silence memorial
David
album.
Simonich is, I think that's how his last name is said, but from Sides of the Swarm is a beast, and that I'm looking forward to. And he's gonna have some seriously stiff rendition at the Mitch Lucker Memorial, because good Lord, the guy's an amazing vocalist. Nobody can really dispute that. I don't think there's anyone who can. Obviously people have personal taste and whatever, but he just absolutely, that song was already pretty good before that, but he took it to another level, and I'm hoping David Simonish can just take it to another one, because
what's amazing
that'd be awesome.
Is that people still talk about that cover, that performance.
Oh yeah, they do.
Right.
People still talk about it. That was such a jaw-dropping moment in that in the whole performance, the whole set, that that's the one that everybody talks about. And so,
but there were so many good sets throughout or songs. Period. I mean, Johnny Davey from Job for a Cowboy killed it. Brooke Reeves from Impending Doom killed it. Randy from Lamb of God.
Oh
that dude
he
can do no wrong.
Every single one of
them
killed it and made it their own.
I mean, you know what? And here I'm going to go ahead and just say this. I'm going to put this out there. You can put this in quotes. You can put it in writing. Whatever. I honestly think. Granted, the most no one could say that Philly Bo was probably not the best, but I think the most underrated performance of the night was Mike Terry from Bury Your Dead, and now he's in Volumes. That dude went out and killed it.
What song
you gotta
was that
see
that
that? I can't. I want to say it wasn't Price of Beauty, because Danny Warsnop got that one.
Danny Warsnop did that, and that was surprisingly good.
Actually. I was so proud of my boy Danny. I was so proud of him.
Dude,
I really didn't expect
I wasn't a
him
huge
to
asking
do
out.
that well.
He did really well.
I was a super huge Asking Alexandria fan. I had the fucking hair, the old school Danny fucking hair and everything, bro.
I could honestly see it, and honestly, now I think there needs to be a picture put up on the New Music podcast of you, like in your emo transition phase.
Like Transformation Tuesday shit? Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna have to go in the fucking wet work for that shit.
Oh boy. But anywho, so forget what we were talking about now. Can't remember, but
you were talking about.
That's the great thing about podcasting, man. We just go out.
You just kind of get going, yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about how you got into deathcore, and I think that the one you had said was one of the first deathcore bands you got into was All Shall Perish.
Right. Oh yeah. So and Suicide Silence, and we were talking about the memorial show, but yeah, Mike Terry. That's what I was gonna say. Is my underrated performer of that night. That guy killed it. And if I for the life of me, I can't remember what song he did. I just remember thinking to myself, when he did his work with Bury Your Dead on there, I think it was it's a self-titled album. And I heard it because I love Matt Brusso from Bury Your Dead too. I think he's an awesome. I get a lot of inspiration from him and Brandon from Bleeding Through vocally, because I always dug their gritty, like mid-range style. And so anyway, long story short, I was kind of skeptical, but when I heard Mike Terry on that album, I was like, oh, this guy's a good replacement. And then
Girls of Glass.
Okay.
Now
pretty popular one.
Now I remember it.
He went absolutely insane on that. And it was like, he went way out of his normal range that I'm used to hearing him in. And so it's like, what if this guy just did a song where he just went insane on a track? I think it would be awesome. But yeah, long story short, that was my underrated one. But and then I had All Shall Perish, and I just was like, this is incredible. And so from then on out, I was always kind of looking for heavier whether it was deathcore, death metal, whatever it is. And so yeah, anything you got that's heavy, if any of your listeners or followers, put it in the comments, because man, I'm always down to look for those heavy ass jams. Whatever you got, nastier the better.
Exactly. What else do we normally ask during these podcasts? I'm blanking on what our usual questions are.
How's the coronavirus treating you?
Oh well, it's dude. I got to be honest with you. Like, it's a pretty gnarly situation. It's scary because I've got two kids. 7-year-old and 4-year-old. My 7-year-old daughter Bryn and my son Blake. Love you, girl. Love you, kids. They're both you know, they may or may not be in the danger zone for the virus, but the fact that I have to take the precaution to put masks on my beautiful kid's face to go anywhere, it's just a surreal, kind of nerve-wracking feeling that I have to take an extra precaution. You know, it's not like going out in the rain and putting boots and raincoat on and
exactly.
It's putting a mask on my face so my children have less of a chance to catch a possibly deadly virus. And that scares that if that doesn't kind of scare the shit out of you as a parent, I don't really know what will, because you never know the next trip to Target, Walmart, the bank. I don't know if those are essential, but anywhere that's open right now could be something, could infect them with something that, depending on their previous health, could have fatal effects. And it's scary, dude. It's scary. But we're all, you know, I work at a grocery store. You know, actually just got hired a few months ago or a month ago, and man, it's so crazy to be in there with all these people, and
I know the feeling.
The conditions and everything. It's insane, you know, because we went to just, okay, kind of wash your hands, to, okay, now everybody's got to wear gloves, to now we have to wear face masks, and we have shields up in front of the registers. And you know, I was going through training on the register the other day because I've since got promoted, but they put me in the check stands, and I was sitting there checking these people's groceries, and I'm sitting there like, this is so weird that I wear them and these people wear them, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of like Resident Evil type shit in a, you know, weird pandemic,
weird surreal kind of way. It's wild.
It is wild. I mean, how about you guys?
I work at Walmart, so I am.
He's on
I
the
stock
front
shelves.
lines, literally.
I'm in the front lines, literally. I stock shelves. I unload trucks. I do it all. So it's not. We're also going to get mandatory temperature checks now. I don't know when that's starting. I don't know when that's starting, but everybody that comes in is going to have to take their temperature have their temperature taken, and if you're over 100, you're being sent home.
Wow.
And you don't.
They're doing that at my job too.
Yeah.
They also wow.
Well,
they also give out. It's not mandatory. You don't have to, but you can wear a mask. You can wear gloves. I personally don't wear a mask, and I don't wear gloves except for my work gloves.
But you know what I love though? I love the people that go out in like a black or like a darker mask or something, and the first thing I think of is Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. Like, I'm like, dude, every time I'm like, you know, you realize you just look like Sub-Zero, and I don't know why, but yeah, it's always the first thing I think of.
I've seen so many people in like fucking hazmat suits, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, there was this.
Suits? Are you serious?
I'm dead ass serious. There was.
I get that you're at Walmart, but bro, a hazmat suit?
Yeah, it was like a fucking hazmat suit with a respirator and fucking everything. I was like, are you?
I've seen Tiger King, and that surprises me. You know what I'm saying? Like, once you see Tiger King, I don't know. I know that's kind of a weird way to kind of bring that up, but I mean, dude, have you guys seen that thing yet?
I'm on episode 2. I'm having a hard time getting through it.
My sister saw it. She literally walked in my room, and we actually talked about it on the recording.
We did. We just recorded an episode earlier, and we were talking about it. Yeah.
My sister walked into it, and she like wanted to see all the hype and shit. She walked in my room, and she was like, "This fucking sucks."
Does she not want to? I mean, if you sit down and kind of just take your time to kind of figure out or listen to what's going on, and take the time to, you know, like, because obviously coming into the show, a lot of people are just turned off by the idea. Tiger King, it's a gay, you know, redneck from I forget wherever the hell they are. See, that's how much I don't even know where they are in the world.
It's Alabama, but he was running for governor in Oklahoma.
I think it's Oklahoma.
So it might be Oklahoma.
I can't remember, but yeah, it's wherever, but it's somewhere, you know, like that. And so I can see how people would just be like, oh, whatever, turn your mind off to it. But if you go in with like, okay, I know that it's going to be insane. I know it's going to be kind of over the top and surreal. If you go in with that optimism or that point of view, it's not only entertaining, it's just like mind blowing to just the world out there. Like, there are people out there that don't like this. This is people's real lives. There's an actual Joe Exotic. There's an actual Carol Baskin. There is an actual Safa, the dude of what got kids' arm bit off by the tiger. And I'm like,
so
there are people. These are real people.
Yeah.
What's crazy to me is that like I had been hearing people talking about it in a lot of the podcasts that I was listening to, because I have this like rotation of true crime and like conspiracy culture type podcasts that I listen to while I'm out driving and delivering food for fun. So I had been hearing about this shit like 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm thinking, all right, well, some dumb shit that somebody did, whatever. And then now I'm like, people are just now finding out about this because there's a documentary about it on Netflix.
Dude, Netflix, power Netflix.
Power of Netflix. You get on that front page, you can do anything.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Also,
I mean, there's just so much shit.
With that first episode is tough for me to get through because it's just Joe Exotic, Joe Exotic, Joe Exotic, Joe Exotic, Joe Exotic. And then once you're done with that first episode, that's when it gets entertaining.
Right. And the thing is like, I totally can see that, because at that first episode, you can get kind of annoyed with how much not only do they bring him up, but it's just everything's about Carol Baskin and whatever. I won't go too far, but you see that already. That's
Most
pretty much
people
from the get-go.
already know that she got him arrested.
Yeah,
most people already know pretty much the ending of the movie.
That right. I will put out. It's pretty basic information, that he obviously does not like Carol Baskin. That's pretty basic Tiger King 101. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, when it comes down to that, it was annoying, but then you realize that you could almost make an entire show just based on him.
Well, they
like
did
that,
technically.
I mean, it wasn't based on
every night. He was streaming to like 80 to 100 people.
That's
he was
dude.
like, he had like a little like a little hut that they were green screening and recording for like every day at like 8 o'clock or something like that. It was a small audience, but he was doing it.
And that's what I remember, that the guy who's I can't remember his name, the guy who's recording the reality show with the hat, the old guy. It was just, I just remember, you're right. That's right. They kind of do almost have that show about, you're right. I want to see those outtakes.
Platform to just be him and just like rant about whatever he felt like talking about that day.
Okay, so that kind of proves my point a little bit. You don't think people are clamoring to see that footage, that beautiful bean footage?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't think people will pay $25 or $30 for a DVD package or whatever with all that footage in it? I guarantee you, there's people out there. I think I saw one of the groups that like the number 8 song in the world right now is "I Saw a Tiger" by Joe Exotic. Okay, granted, it could have just been a meme, but I mean, it looked pretty legit. I could be wrong, but it's going up the charts like crazy.
And the best part is that that's not fucking him singing that. No fucking way. Don't fucking sit there and tell me that's him singing that shit, because we all know better.
Here's the thing. Granted, I thought my first initial thought was there's no way that is him, but then I thought to myself, there's a lot. Oh, what the hell? No, go away! I don't know what you want me to do. Anyway, yeah. So yeah.
Pay for my OnlyFans.
Oh, swipe up. So anyways, yeah. when it comes down to it, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, this guy's got a rising chart. Oh, that's where we were going. Sorry. When I first heard his voice, I thought to myself, man, that can't be him. There's no way that that's him. And then I got to thinking, there's a lot of like anomalies out there. Like, okay, when you look at like, say Susan Boyle, do you guys remember that woman? She was on America's Got Talent or something, and she blew up, but she didn't look like a pop star. She looked like a little old lady with gray hair. She was a little overweight and everything. So nobody expected much out of her. And then she opened her mouth, and it was like, whoa. So I'm thinking, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, because there's no real news on it at that time, about if this is his real voice. I thought maybe the guy's just a talented guy. And there's that like homeless dude that years ago that had like that news broadcaster voice. He had like a golden voice, and he blew up over. It's like you can find a lot of gems in some really nasty places,
weird places. Yeah.
Weird, you know what I mean? So I kind of attribute it to that.
I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that he contracted people out to.
Yes.
Are you sure that? I'm gonna do some research after this and find out, because I'm pretty sure
I want
I
to say you're
heard.
right.
I
want to say you're right.
I want to say it was the boys on last podcast on the left, and I always trust their research. They have a very good research team. But I'm pretty sure they confirmed that he contracted about 3 different musicians to write and record those songs for him. But I'll do more research on that. We'll talk about it on the next episode or whatever.
I actually think I think you're
yeah.
right. I think you're right. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, bud. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good. No, I'm pretty sure there were a couple of country artists in rotation that he contracted to write those songs for him. But it's still funny, like when you watch him lip syncing or even just like him singing it at the funeral and everything. It's just like, what the fuck? It kind of blows your mind, really.
Even the worst thing, just see your husband rub his balls in his face. What happened? Something happened.
I have to keep that.
Hold on.
Can you hear me?
What?
Oh, we're good. We're back.
We're good.
I got
to
be honest.
Wait, what happened?
On this amount of time, that does kind of happen.
You were lagging for a little bit, and all of a sudden we heard and rubbing his balls, and that's all we heard.
Oh no, that's going to be an excellent soundbite for the podcast.
That was fucking funny. So I just want to end this off right here. What have you been listening to lately? Because I always ask this question, but what?
I got. That's an easy one because I would. Granted, I still like to, I think I listen to a lot of that new Signs of the Swarm. It's an amazing album. I already can't. I think David Simonich is, if you don't know about him, the guy's an absolute beast monster, and he was, a lot of people doubted him when he started after CJ McCreery left and or got kicked out, whatever you want to call it. But that guy couldn't have been a better replacement. As a matter of fact, I like to think he's a much better vocalist, and maybe not much better to a lot of people, but I think there's a lot of people out there who would agree that he's a perfect fit, and that band has carried on quite well with him at the helm, and that whole album is amazing. But if I'm really real with you guys, I don't know why, but I've been listening to a lot of the new Vatican Falling. Got to be real with you. War has been on constant rotation. I mean, even though I listen to a lot of the pre-production stuff and everything, I still I don't know why that album to me just kind of it's kind of like I said, for me it's a well-written album, but it's also got a little bit of that nostalgia, throws you back to a time when metalcore or deathcore and metalcore, I guess in a sense, had that more techie kind of feel to it with a lot of big riffs and everything, fast techie stuff. But yeah, anyway, so a lot of Vatican Falling. I don't know if you guys heard the new Harbor Dreams. My buddy Colin in that band, he just got announced as the vocalist. That song is awesome. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Harbor of Dreams or
Harbor Dreams. So it's HARBORED Dreams. Really good. They just released a new song with Colin on vocals, and that dude's a monster. I've always listened to. I love In Prism, Johnny Bemis and the boys. Those guys are awesome. Let's see, what else have I been listening to a lot lately? The New Reflections. These guys go off.
Reflection slaps.
But yeah, just I always like to kick it back. Like the other day, I found myself bumping "All Shall Perish Is the Price of Existence" because that just album. It's like once an album kind of introduces you to a genre.
Oh yeah.
Even though you may not listen to it all the time, it's always going to have a special place in your heart. Unless the band or somebody in the band did something terrible and you're like, no, whatever, for whatever controversial reason, that album, that piece of art will always, I believe, hold a special place. And so, like those two albums, The Cleansing and The Price of Existence, I can go back to those albums and jam the daylights out of them anytime. Same thing with This Is Exile or The Somatic Defilement. Those albums are classics. Oceano is always one of my go-to. Adam Warren's a fucking beast. So
I haven't heard Oceano.
That man does not get the respect he deserves. It's not even
fair.
That
dude's guy's so amazing. The guy's got such a range and power. Oh, another thing too. The last 10 seconds of life. It's always been on heavy rotation. I love John Robert and the boys right now, but I gotta be real with you, Storm Strope. I'm a Storm Strope fanboy. That guy's disgusting. If you guys haven't listened to
who the
Soulless
original vocalist
Tim's,
of the band was?
hymns, and then he left the band. Name order is, but yeah, he and they released The Violent Sound, which is a pretty good album. Then they released Machina Non Grata this year, and it was amazing. A hard hitting ass album, and it was the best album that I think they've come out with since Storm, since anything with Storm in it. But another band on heavy rotation. But I'll end it there because I know that you guys all gotta get to bed and whatnot. So I'll shut up and let you guys take the show out.
No, we appreciate you having taking the time to be on
I appreciate
you
guys. Oh, thank you very much. And I appreciate you guys having me on. And
that was a Kyle moment right there.
Dude, okay, so yeah, just tongue tied and all kinds of ridiculous. But I appreciate you guys having me on, and it was a good time. And I don't know, maybe sometime when something else happens, we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. You are more than welcome back on this show.
Excellent.
If you have made it this far, first of all, we fucking love you. Second of all, you know what we're about to tell you. You got to hit that fucking subscribe button right down there. And Kyle, what do they do to the bell button?
You're gonna crowd kill the fuck out of that fucking bell button. Crowd kill the shit out of it.
You get more intense with that every time we do
this. You know what? You should just do it like go straight hardcore Keem on it and throw your chair. Smash that subscribe button and just
fucking grab that shit.
There you go. See?
Oh,
okay. Oh, Eric. Okay. All right. Oh God.
It's too bad his room is blurred.
He's destroyed his whole setup now.
He crowd killed himself. It's official. This is the one-man show now. I'm sorry, guys. We killed Kyle. And unlike South Park, he doesn't keep coming back.
That's Kenny.
That's Kenny. That's Kenny. Kyle never.
Kenny.
Guys,
close enough.
Anyway, kill that fucking bell.
And if you prefer podcast format, we do have everything up on all podcasting platforms. The link tree is down in the bottom section below and all that cool jazz. Thanks again. We do news, interviews, and reviews. Don't miss a fucking beat. All right. Bye, motherfuckers.